evening and welcome to our call for tonight. This is our Tuesday training, and we are training on strategies to use your video PLR. And so we do these on every Tuesday in order to kind of give you some guardrails you can use in order to take your video PLR and start using it. Okay, so I can see your questions here in YouTube. So if you have any questions, you can write them in the box. I'm just going to say hello to you here, and then I'm going to shut off my camera and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to be talking about delivering your video course, and it's going to be a little more practical than we normally do, and we just want to talk through a few things. And I'll say the genesis of this was that I got a support, I'd say a ticket, and someone suggested that I take a look at one of the platforms. I think it was about about $2,000, and so I thought about it, and what I told the person was, hey, I'm really on the fence about that platform, and I'm just not going to do it. I may do a course on that platform, but I'm not gonna invest in the platform. And I want to give you some parameters on how you want to think about buying platforms in particular, because if you're going to have video courses, you want to have the thing that's going to ultimately make you money. And it doesn't matter who you are, whether or not your customers are PhDs or whether or not your customers are not PhDs. It doesn't matter. You've got to have a course platform that works for you and works for your customers. It really is that simple. So let's talk about some ways that we can get to that. And that'll help you, I think, more readily use your video PLR. Now, we do these on Tuesday nights. Like I said, you can always find them at the plrshow.com/Tuesday training. You can always find them at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You want to find the archive of all of our Tuesday trainings, plrshow.com/Tuesday playlist. So if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. As we just so you'll know, our new PLR course is the PLR Product Creation Playbook. You get that at plrshow.com/PCPB. And that's going to be on for another few days. If you're an Ultimate Insider, you already have this course. It's in your September 21 folder. So let's get into the strategy for tonight. And let's talk about what platform and set of resources you should use. And I guess the end of that is to deliver your video courses. So what should you use? And if you don't have something now, how should you make the decision? And that's really more of the flavor of what I want to talk about here. Let's talk about the integrations that really matter. And one of the reasons I say these integrations have to matter is it's very popular now to integrate things or to say that they integrate, because that's very attractive to us. If we already have a platform and we're thinking about getting another platform, one of the things that we use in order to justify that purchase to ourselves is that, oh, this integrates with something that I already use, so it must be a good purchase. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Again, I'm going to give you the guardrails here tonight. So integrations, let's take integrations off the table. So it doesn't matter if someone tells you it integrates or not, take them off of the table. What I want you to do when you have to make a decision about a tool is to think about them in the way we're going to describe tonight, and you put these things back on the table one at a time. So rather than looking at the sales page or hearing the sales pitch or hearing the sales video, or even hearing about it in a webinar, or even hearing about somebody's experience, and they say, well, it's got these integrations and it's got all of these things that it does, there are certain things that you're going to have to think about if these things are really going to end up making you money and not sit on, in some digital drive of yours, not doing anything. First thing you got to do is, between all your tools, it doesn't matter whether it's the platform or whether or not it's the shopping cart, one of them has to be able to collect an email address of your buyer or opt-in. And that basically means that whatever autoresponder you use, You're going to have to make sure it does that with your autoresponder. Something does. It may not be your membership platform. It may not be your video host. It may not be necessarily your shopping cart, but one of them has to, because part of that process has to end up with at least the person who's made the purchase ending up in your autoresponder or in autoresponder you operate. Now, that also stands to reason this. Now, if you already have a set of tools and you're trying to figure out, well, I've got this I've got this autoresponder I don't pay a lot of money for, and I'm trying to get it to work with these tools that I paid a lot of money for, you may have to switch autoresponders. That's the cheapest thing to switch. So if you don't have an autoresponder that fits your tools, and you're trying to do Zapier, and you're trying to do Integrately, and you're trying to make all these things work, I'm going to tell you from experience, you want to just eliminate all those things and get the autoresponder that works with your tools. Now, again, I'm not telling you which one to get, but you've got to have these things and they got to work together. That's a minimum. You've got to get your customer from your shopping cart or from the purchase to a thank you page. So whatever happens, whatever the process is, your customer's got to get from making that purchase to a thank you page. So if your system doesn't do that, then you've got to get a new system, or you've got to make sure you understand your system well enough so it does that. Your customer has to get from the thank you page to the platform. Typically, that's going to mean that you've either got to be able to make sure that you can put the link into what your platform is going to deliver, or your platform has automatically got to deliver something that's going to send people to a thank you page. So you have to have that happen. So there cannot be any situation where this does not happen, especially if you're selling digital products. And even if you're selling physical products, this still needs to happen. Your customer has to get from the platform to giving you the opportunity to ask for a best email address. Sometimes it happens inside of the member area. So if you cannot change, or you can't add to your member area so that you can ask your customer to give you their best email address, you may need another platform, because you need to be able to ask your customer almost immediately after purchase to allow you to send them email to their best email address. And the best way you're going to do that, of course, is to offer them a bonus of some kind. But if you can't do that, and you can't do that with your system and all the other things that you have, it doesn't matter how well they integrate. What matters are these things that I'm telling you. You've got to make sure your video system or your video platform system where you're selling a course really does happen. And they've got to get access to the platform. Typically, that's going to be in an email and in an immediate redirect. So I'm going to get to this in a minute. You got to test the process, but typically you've got to try to find out if the system, and I understand, and I'm going to say this later, it may be difficult for you to find these things out before you buy something. And if that's the case, you're going to have to look at some solutions that maybe you've experienced that you like, but before you go and get something new because it's cheap or because they say it integrates. Now, most importantly, you got to do a test purchase, and you have to go through the process, and you got to go through your process of the entire system. So you need to, and again, don't go to your system and add a user. Do a test purchase. Set your pricing to $2 and go and buy it. Right now, you might want to make sure that that's going to be okay with whoever your payment processor is, your merchant account or PayPal or Stripe or all those things. So don't do anything to jeopardize your relationship with your payment merchant, but you've got to do a test purchase. Now, typically, sometimes you can do a test purchase without having to go through Stripe or PayPal or anything like that. Now, if you can do that, I would opt for that. But you got to test the system. You got to test your processes. You have to figure out what are the gaps that the user has in putting it all together. So if you can't reproduce a system when you do a test, and you can't produce the system where you want it and where you want something to happen, then that's what you got to fix. So if you can't put it together, you're the user. On the flip side, let's say that you can put something together and it all makes sense to you, and all makes sense to the person who did the tutorials of the systems that you bought. But when you go through it as a customer, it still does not make sense. You have to fix that. And lastly, you may come to the situation where, and when I say this, please don't think that I'm setting you up. I'm not setting you up to pitch anything. I'm not going to be selling you a platform, right? I was thinking about giving you my teachable, um, what is that, affiliate link, but I'm not going to do that here. I want you to understand this, and I don't want you to be clouded by anything I'm going to say to try and sell you something, because ultimately these are things you got to get right. And you got to get these right if you're going to have video courses, multiple video courses, and you're going to have some kind of continuity program. You're going to have it on the system that you've already purchased. So in other words, you have to understand the process from your perspective, putting it together. So if we're going to put together a system where we're selling multiple products, how fast can you put a product together and get it up for sale? Very important. Because if it takes you all day, because maybe not because of the system, maybe because you just don't get it. And it doesn't matter if everybody else in the world says the system is wonderful. It doesn't matter about that. What matters is that you can create products very quickly. Can you do that? And again, this might be difficult for you to figure out up front, but once you have a set of tools and you're trying to figure out, you got one side by side with another, you're trying to figure out if you should buy another one that's being launched, ask yourself this question, or verify that you can create products very fast with a particular system. How fast can you create a continuity membership where people are paying monthly? How fast can you put something together? Because, and I'll get to this here in a minute, you need to be able to put these things together on the fly, whether or not you're doing it for a customer or you're doing it for yourself. When your customer stops paying your continuity payment, when they decide they're not going to pay you monthly, or they run out of money, or something happens, your system needs to automatically lock them out, automate it. And you do not need to be involved in that process. Get yourself out of that. You don't want to be in a case where someone's got a few issues, and they say, now you can always resubscribe people or give them access manually, but you want it to happen so that when the person stops the payment, then your system needs to automatically lock them out. It should not depend on you having to figure out who canceled their subscription, so you can go back in and you can then make all the adjustments. I promise you won't do it. And so what will happen then is you'll end up giving away some of your membership when someone else is paying continually. And that's not something you want to do. How easily can you make changes to your entire system? So, and this is an important point. If you cannot change something, let's say that you got to go in and you want to raise the price on your membership, or you're going to raise the price on your course, and that's not easy to do, you got the wrong system. I don't care how little you paid for it. I don't care who endorses it. All that doesn't matter. What matters is how easily can you make changes to the system you have for the sake of your business. And again, I just kind of said this, but you got to be able to reproduce these things over and over again very fast without sacrificing the quality that your customer is going to experience. And the result of this is really this. You might have to pay more for something so that you get all these things I'm talking about. So you got to take all these things off the table. You got to put these things back on the table one by one. And then you've got to look at then, okay, what do I need to buy that fits all these parameters? It's going to be easy to use. That's going to be something I can create stuff with fast, that I can make changes to my system, and then I can really operate it. Because if you can't operate your system, likely you will not launch as often as you need to or that you want to. And that puts a whole damper on trying to do, what we've been talking about, which is a product snowball, where you are launching continually, giving your market things that they want, and keeping your affiliates occupied, keeping your customers excited. The only way you can do that is launch continually, whatever that means to you. Now for some people that could mean bi-weekly, for some people that means weekly, for some people that means monthly, right? For some people that means every 3 months. Whatever it is, whatever that means for you and your business model, you got to be continually releasing things that make sense for your customer. And if you can't do it with your shopping cart and your membership platform, because you can't put it all together and it doesn't work for you, you've got to pay as much as you've got to pay in order for you to be able to do this easily. I've seen people balk at making a monthly payment for some of the course platforms. And I would agree that some of those course platforms can be a little clunky, but what they allow you to do typically is to produce something quickly and get it up for sale. And sometimes that means that you will actually make more in the long run, or even sometimes in the short run, because it's up and running. If it takes you forever to get something up and running, you're not making money. It doesn't matter how little you paid for it. And this is what happens to us, especially those of us who are in information marketing. It's not shiny object syndrome. It's sort of like we think we need something and something's not working. And so we go and get something we think might work, or because it looks good because it said that it integrates. You have got to wipe that out of your mind. That's not the point. It's not the point whether or not something has all the pieces together. That's not the point. Again, there are very cool there are very cool platforms, and it's got everything in it, right? You can pay one price for it. I'm just going to tell you, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Now, you got to understand things from the customer perspective. This is vital. Here's what the good part is about. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Make Money Online market, JVZoo, Warrior Plus, ClickBank. You don't really have to have the whole process buttoned down for the customer. The market is forgiving. So in other words, sometimes you might come to a page and, it doesn't look like it, it's super professional. There might not be a welcome campaign and all the other stuff. And really and truly, Make Money Online market doesn't care about that. Right. So we sort of condition ourselves to kind of look for things that we know we need, and we don't have to be coddled. But anything outside of this market, the expectation is going to be that you've got the entire purchase process, after purchase process buttoned down so that there are no questions on behalf of the customer from the time they make the purchase to the time they consume your first bit of content. You have got to make that so incredibly easy and seamless for the customer. And if it doesn't, you got to fix it. Right now, I might be burdening you right now. You might be thinking, man, I did not want to hear this, but it's important. And that's why you really got to test the entire process. If you do this, like if you really make your delivery process super good and super smooth, you're outside the Make Money Online market, it's going to differentiate you. Most people don't do it. So you can set yourself apart from any other product creator by making sure the delivery process is going to be so smooth that the customer, from the time they make the purchase to the time they consume your first bit of content, it's all seamless. Well, if you can do that, you're going to separate yourself. Now, what's always going to be important is that you've got to figure out what that person's experiencing when they buy from you, and it's going to be hard to tell if these things are happening when there's a software launch. Now I'm going to suggest something to you, and this may sound a little bit old school, and it may sound a little bit non-internet techie, but here's what you really need to do. You've got to ask around about the tools and create the experience that you like. Typically, you'll know you had an experience that you like when you're a customer. When you go through an experience and you're a customer, you are going to want to know how this happens, right? And you may have to ask questions. You may ask questions of the vendor. Typically, somebody will tell you what they're using in order to create that effect. And if you don't do that, what will happen is you'll end up buying things and platforms that may or may not make sense to the customer, and they don't even make sense to you because you didn't test it, you didn't like it. So if you go through your process, you don't like it, we've got to work with that process so that you like it as a customer. So that, again, by the time the purchase is made, all the way to the time the customer gets that first piece of content and does something with it, if you like it, chances are your customer will like it. But if you don't like it, your customer probably won't like it either. And so you might have to go then and ask people what they use to create the experience that you do like. Now, don't go asking people what you should use, right? That's not what I'm talking about. You've probably had enough experiences where you bought things from a shopping cart. Do you like the experience? And so you've got to start thinking about what created the experience that you like the most so that you can then go and replicate that experience with your existing tools. If you can't do that with your existing tools, you got to go buy the tools that you can use in order to replicate the system. That's important. So you're the end of the day, you're the entrepreneur, you're the marketer. It doesn't matter what I tell you, you've got to get in terms of a tool. What matters is, and this is different kind of thinking, right? I could easily start recommending a tool to you, or I could recommend a platform to you, but that's not really necessarily going to help you. What I would use, because again, what I would use, what you would use might be two different things. What's got to happen is you got to understand the whole process from your perspective, putting it together. You got to understand it from the customer's perspective, who's going to be buying things. You got to go through both processes. If the process you go through, you can put stuff up fast and get it working, that's a process you want. That's a platform, a system of processes you want to consider. If when you go through it as a customer, you like it, that's a platform you want to consider. Now, lastly, I just want to touch on this, and I think that this will kind of allay some of your fears. If you start thinking, well, all that stuff, it's going to cost, a bunch of money every month, and some of it's I'm going to have to pay up front. You can defray a lot of those costs and take a lot of that fear out and take a lot of that apprehension out of getting the things that you really want for your customers and your business, so that you gotta defray some of that cost by putting together monthly offers. What do I mean by that? You're always going to find this to be the case. All the set of tools you really want for your online business it could often be more than you want to pay. It's often going to be that. And so what are you going to do when that happens? Probably happens to you from time to time, happens to all of us. One of the ways in which we do and work around this is to create massive value and make it available for a monthly payment. That might sound really super simple. You might say, well, man, I've got to create a big membership. It's got to be really valuable, and I've got to sell it. This is where you might have to price it to sell. Why? Why are you doing that? Well, you're pricing it to sell so you can cover some expenses. And so that you will not be hamstrung when you have to go and buy something that you really need. You will make a better quality decision if you have some monthly continuity going in. And so right alongside of the offers that you're selling, when you start making offers, you ought to have right alongside that offer a continuity offer, something that you're selling on the membership. And so when you're doing this, you start until you get critical mass, and then you can raise your price. Now, when you're first starting, you're just trying to get critical mass. You're trying to get some people in there. When you get to that critical mass and you kind of feel like, okay, well, you know what? I've got this together and it's sort of covering those things that I want. Then you can then start to get the price up to where it should be. Now, if you start high and go low, that doesn't work. If you start low and go high, that works. Now, the easiest way you're going to do this, you're going to have video PLR. If you have our video PLR, you can do this. You got to create a video learning center. And that's the easiest way to create a continuity program, is to put your video courses into a video member area that people can get access to as long as you're paying your membership fee. Right. And so, yeah, all you really need in order to do this, you got to have hosting. You got to have a login and password platform that locks people out. Right. If they stop paying, you got to have a shopping cart. If you got those three things, you can put together a platform where you can sell a monthly membership. And again, if you start doing this on a regular basis, you will start building an income that will give you a different way to think about things. And so again, you might have to overserve some people in order to get up to critical mass, right? So when you start selling a membership at the beginning, you're going to be selling it for a lot less than it's worth. That makes sense. Now, again, that might not necessarily be. Now, I know that's not the advice that you're going to get from Dan Kennedy or any of those guys. I understand that. I'm just telling you, when you get started, you might have to give a lot of value and then raise the price as you go along once you're at that critical mass. And this is important. I say this to our Ultimate Insiders. I'm going to say it to you too. You should always have continuity active. Always. That should be your number one thing. Again, do it with a video learning center. If it's not going to be that, it doesn't matter what it is. but you should always have a continuity offer active. So when somebody comes to buy your stuff, let's say they decide to click off of it, they say, I don't want this, but then they see something else, and that other thing they see should be your continuity offer. If you are going to be emailing your people, whether you email them every day, which I suggest to you, or you email them every other day, doesn't matter. So, whether it's every other day or it's going to be every day that you email, you should be telling people about your continuity offer. It should be a lot of value for a little price until you get to critical mass. Okay, any questions? Any questions about 726? Any questions? Okay, there's a course on how to create a PLR product or how to use your PLR product in order to create a product. You can get that at plrshow.com/Chris D. We've got some bonuses there. Also, I did an interview with Chris. His name is Chris Derenberger. And you can watch that interview at the plrshow.com/Monday PLR show. And I think you'll find it interesting. Make sure you watch it till the end, right? So you can hear what Chris has to say. Friend of mine has put together some financial literacy PLR. We've put together a bonus. I didn't have time to put together a bonus page. We are going to give you a set of graphics and our QuickBooks videos, right, with resale rights. Okay. All right. So any questions? Any questions? Make sure you are getting access to our daily newsletter. You can do that at the plrshow.com. Right, put your name and email. Well, actually, don't put your name and email address. Just grab the offer that's there. Right, it's a free download, and you can get access to everything. Now, finally, I do want to tell you about our own membership. I think it's the best that we have to offer you. We will help you be positioning yourself as an educator in your market or sub niche, and that's the products that we put together. We help you to do that. So you can sign up there at the plrshow.com/insider training. Right. And right now, it's a really special time for Ultimate Insiders because we are doing a 40-week live training. We're going to be turning it into PLR. Now, very soon, you are going to have to pay for that. But now, if you're an Ultimate Insider, you're not going to have to pay for it because it's part of your membership. But yeah. Very cool for you. I mentioned a few things. I have a few book recommendations. You can find my book recommendations at plrshow.com/books. And finally, if this has benefited you in any way, please give us a shout out. Right? If you like what you heard, please go to the plrshow.com/shout. We use these on our sales pages, on our workshop pages, and any place where people are going to come into public. We like people to know that other people have gotten value out of what we are sharing. So yeah, we will. So put your best face on, put your best website in there. When we link to you, and we like to get out and about with these and tell people that other people are getting value. So any questions? It's about 7:29, so we are just about out of here. 7:29 Eastern Standard Time, depending on where you are in the world. So once again, I appreciate you all being out here. I'll turn on my camera just to say adieu. Right. So we'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great night. A pleasant tomorrow.